landed in Lampedusa. The end of the runway is almost the end of the island.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lampedusa Airport, where the local time is 7:45. Now please remain seated with the seatbelt security
And we're still in Europe.
The aircraft has complete, so complete stop
It's an outpost of Europe.
has been switched off. Please take care
And
when
that's
opening
why
your compartments
many
as
people
loose items may fall out.
from Africa are
Also,
trying
please
to
check
get
the
here.
seat pocket in front of you as it contains your personal belongings.
They don't get here the way I got here today.
Prohibited until
As part of my work for the Global Relationships team of the Methodist Church in Britain, I spent 3 days on Lampedusa, the Italian island in the Mediterranean Sea that is one of the main destinations for migrants trying to get to Europe from North Africa. I was there with Tom and David, two colleagues from the Methodist Church in Ireland, and Fiona from Mediterranean Hope, a church organisation that the churches in Britain and Ireland support. Through our meetings with local activists and other partners of Mediterranean Hope, like Sea-Watch, we were given detailed insights into the seemingly insurmountable challenges that migrants face on the borders of Europe. We also got to see the human face of migration, both from the side of those who flee and those who welcome. So we just arrived here at this sanctuary where we're going to get some introduction. But we just got a call. 3 of the teams have to go down to the docks because there's a boat just come in. So already the program's been interrupted, but it's what these volunteers are here for. Because of Lampedusa's location right in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, it was a place with many and varied influences down through the ages. But its location also made it an ideal place for refuge. Records going back to the 12th century show that a group of hermit monks set up a sanctuary and refuge here in these caves. Later they shared this space with people of the Muslim faith who sought sanctuary on the island. The work that Mediterranean Hope is doing here today continues in that rich heritage of welcoming the stranger that has so much been a part of Lampedusa. So we were just having our induction into the work of Mediterranean Hope here in Lampedusa. Giovanni was sharing about the work of Lampedusa when we got word that there's another boat coming in. So 3 of the team have already been down this morning and received 30 migrants, and in 10 minutes another boat of about 40 migrants are arriving, and so we're going down to the dock and we will be there to welcome them. But this is just a typical day in the life of Mediterranean Hope here in Lampedusa. You have plans, but the priority is dropping everything and just rushing to the docks to be there to be a welcome for the migrants who are arriving, and just being open to whatever awaits us there. In the background is the dock where the migrant boats are escorted to by the Italian Coast Guard boats. It's a military zone and we could not film from there, but you can see the small boats that have arrived. On that one day, a total of 17 boats arrived, bringing with them anywhere between 10 and 150 migrants. And these are the lucky ones. The migrants are first met by the local police authorities. Then they get passed on to a doctor who checks each person coming off the boat. Only after that are they passed on to the Mediterranean Hope workers, where they are welcomed with a smile and the offer of food and water. I will never forget the first person that approached us, an African lady in colourful African clothing, with her 8-month-old baby and her husband. They had made an incredible 3,000-kilometre journey from Cameroon to the north coast of Africa, paid traffickers to get them into a small boat that is made for just one journey, the journey to Europe. I can't even imagine what hell she has been through to get this far, but as she walks towards me, she walks with a true sense of dignity and worth. To me, it was almost as if she was stating defiantly, "I am. I exist. I survived. I am. From this morning, listening to some of the people and their stories that came through this morning. They're people from various parts of the world, obviously from sub-Saharan Africa, but even this morning they had people from Bangladesh, people from Syria, desperate to get away from whatever terrible conditions they're facing. And people can talk about economic migrants and real migrants, but I know for me, if I had kids and I wanted a future for them, I would do what I needed to do to get them to safety and to get them to a better future. And I know that's what the Irish have been doing for centuries as they emigrated to Canada and the States and other parts, UK, England. It's so complex and it's such a huge issue, and it's here to stay with us, and we need to find a way of sharing what we have in this planet, dealing with corruption everywhere so that people can actually stay where they want to stay and don't have to flee home. I have no answers, but my Christian faith teaches me to welcome the stranger, and that's why churches all around the world are involved in welcoming refugees and migrants. Yeah, even with all the complexities of it and the difficulties that it brings, but just looking at these folks here, they're human beings created in the image of God. That's enough for me. The team from Mediterranean Hope also showed us the cemetery on the island. A local community organisation made up of local residents, church members and other activists have made it their mission to give a dignified burial and a final resting place to those migrants who were not fortunate enough to make it alive to Europe. And wherever possible, this group has mounted plaques at the graves giving the names, the country of origin and any other details they can find to help families to locate their loved ones if in the future they are ever able to do that. It was also incredibly moving to visit the Remembrance Garden that the community group has planted and so lovingly cares for. This too is faith expressing itself in love. So we've just walked up to what's called the hotspot, which is where the migrants are taken from the docks to a detention centre, and they're kept here for either days or weeks until they get processed. And it's in a very remote part of the island, down in a dip in a valley, hidden from sight, and guarded by soldiers and fenced in, and they're not allowed to leave there. This hotspot centre was designed to hold about 350 people, but sometimes there can be as many as 800 people here, just depending on how many boats arrive within a short space of time. The refugees are processed here usually within a few weeks and then taken by ship to the Italian mainland, or if they don't qualify for refugee status, they get repatriated back to Tunisia or Libya. And we've just come back to the car, and the car here is the car that was financed by the Methodist Church in Britain and the Methodist Church in Ireland. So there it is, doing a great work here. So I can understand why the folks here take a little siesta from about 1:30 to 4:30. It is so hot here during the day, melting. So we took a couple of hours off and went for a swim. This is the crass contradiction of Lampedusa. It has some of Europe's best beaches and is a huge destination for Italian holidaymakers, and yet right alongside all that you have refugee boats trying to land on these shores too. Life in all its beautiful and chaotic complexity. So we've come down to the very southern tip of the island of Lampedusa. In the background behind me there is about 100 kilometers in that direction, Libya, North Africa, and that's where folks try to get across to Lampedusa, which is a part of Sicily, a part of Italy, and therefore part of Europe. And we've come down to the southern tip of the island because an artist has done an installation here, the Door of Europe in the background. Here at the Door of Europe, our team of staff and volunteers and visitors sat down on the rocks and had a short service of prayer and worship. And this team, made up of people of the Christian faith and people of no or other faiths, were united. United in our love to welcome the stranger. Ubi caritas et amor, Deus ibi est. Where there is charity and love, there God is. And in spite of seemingly insurmountable challenges, we were reminded of the Christian hope that always gives light, light that the darkness will not overcome. So we're just about to board from Lampedusa, heading to Palermo, changing in Palermo to Rome, and then from Rome to Munich and Munich to Dresden. And they're laughing at me because I'm sitting in a wee corner here on my own, talking to the camera. First time flying with Danish Airlines, Danish DAT, whatever that means. So this big thing here is blowing air into the inflatable plane. It's like an inflatable bouncy castle.